Good morning, this is Sean Paul Day for LTR News. A recent article which was posted online by citylab.com has attempted to discredit the taxi trade by presenting an argument that, as non-residents, taxi drivers were stirring up trouble for residents in the borough of Tower Hamlets, who are advocates of the bus gate scheme there, which is blatantly untrue. But then, Citylab was never going to publish the most relevant part of the taxi driver's response when asked to comment. The nucleus of the argument is with the residents who are forced to suffer the impact of rerouted traffic. The police, however, did attend, as is customary at any protest, but left within 15 minutes, and as I understand it, there were no concerns that the protest would turn hostile. If Citylab had attended or experienced any of the protests that are called by the ITA, they would know that they are the most peaceful demonstrations held in the capital. The fact is, 99% of the protesters were residents of Tower Hamlets who do not consider the road to be a rat run, but a major access point to the A12. The problem here is that the traffic order is only implemented on certain local roads and does not consider the detrimental impact that displaced traffic will have on the Mile End Road, for example. Taxis provide the public with the only demand-responsive door-to-door service in London. TaxiCard alone enables over 80,000 members in 32 participating boroughs to take around 1.3 million trips a year. The scheme enables those who may have difficulty using public transport, such as buses, trains and tubes, to get out and about and enjoy their city. Surely it is a matter of personal liberty. Now, if licensed taxis are prevented from using the bus gate on Tredegar Rd, what provision has the local authority put in place to ensure those with mobility issues are not forced onto costly, time-inefficient routes? And mobility remains a concern for the elderly, frail, wheelchair-dependent, sight-impaired, anxious, and those carrying heavy luggage and shopping. The cab fleet is rapidly moving towards electric, with nearly 3,000 in operation in the space of just 18 months, unlike buses that are allowed to run on diesel until 2037. All new taxis have to be zero emission capable. It is also worth remembering that taxis have always conformed to the EU emissions strategy and are stringently tested twice a year to ensure they uphold rigorous standards. Permitting taxis to access the bus gate is not about prioritising the driver, is it? But allowing those who have chosen not to use their car, or better still, not to own one, to access transport that delivers an efficient, accessible, door-to-door service. In 2015, the European Court of Justice ruled that the practice of permitting, in order to establish a safe and efficient transport system, black cabs to use bus lanes on public roads during the hours when traffic restrictions relating to those lanes were operational. With the crime rate in Tower Hamlets being at an all-time high, no one, especially the most vulnerable in society, should be denied a door-to-door service in what is factually the safest transport option in the capital. For those of you who haven't heard it, here is the interview in full conducted by Tommy Perry from the ITA and Councillor Margaret Cooper.
It's a council priority to try to make the Bow area and other areas as walking and cycling friendly as possible, facilitating public transport, getting rid of rat runs, but not helping people to get about their area where it's essential. So if they need their cars, they should be able to get about, and that's one of the issues we've had with this, because it's a temporary
so it's not been thought through, basically.
It's been thought through, but you can't do all the changes. And what it has done is raised awareness, because we've already been out and consulted with people twice in the area.
A consultation.
And had engagement, talking to people. And we've had a lot of support for doing this sort of thing. But by doing it...
And an impact assessment report.
That's what this was hoping to bring about.
This is the impact assessment report is what you're doing now.
This is part of the consultation because it's a trial. And what it has done is raise awareness amongst those people that hadn't seen any of the consultation. So we're getting a different set of views.
So the consultation will go out to who? just for local residents?
It will go out to the whole of Bow.
Just in Bow? It was just remain to the postcode
it'll go to
residents?
all the Bow West board, and then it'll go to Transport for London. It'll go to, if we get to statutory, then we'll go to all the statutory.
And then once it's gone statutory, that would mean anybody can get involved in the consultation. Yes. A lorry driver from Leeds could decide what comes through these barriers.
We know.
But no, basically that is how it works, isn't it? The consultations.
We
or Joe the cyclist from Newcastle can consult onto the consultation, and they could override all the residents with their views. So the residents will basically have no say if you're going to make it a nationwide consultation.
I think we have the technology to track where those responses come from.
You might have the resources to track it, but would it be acted upon once tracked?
Yes.
So why don't you just make it for the local residents rather than going through all that process?
Well, statutory means you've got to do it, yeah?
We're going to take all that away now.
Oh, have they finished at the... Sorry.
So this is your choice to put these here at these time and your choice to take these away?
No, I'm acting on discussions I've had with my managers and the mayor and everybody.
The mayor? You've actually met the mayor?
I've met the mayor's, not today, but I've been in consultation with the mayor and he'd approved doing this.
The mayor? What, Sadiq Khan?
No, the mayor of Tower Hamlets.
The Tower Hamlets mayor has approved what you've just done here.
But Transport for London are fully aware of this, not necessarily Sadiq Khan, but this is part of some projects that they are funding.
Okay, and have you discussed it with any disabled groups locally?
Yes.
And what was their views? Or are you still waiting for it to come back?
No. I mean, we've got the special needs transport coming through, allowed through for school buses and things.
School buses? Taxis with disabled people? Even though they're not electric, they're diesel taxis, can they come through with a disabled passenger?
At the minute, that's a trial that's closing down now, yeah? What we would do is take all those comments and then look at how we actually operate.
But in the meantime, if I turn up here with a disabled passenger in my cab, it's a diesel cab, would I be allowed to go through your barrier to drop your disabled passenger to the top of this road?
Well, you will now because we're stopping the
No, with the barriers here, you're trialling it. What am I going to do with my disabled passenger who's in the back of my taxi?
But we're taking the barriers away right now.
If I would have turned up here an hour ago when the barrier was up, would you have given me access in my diesel taxi to come through here, because it's all about clean air, allegedly? Would I have come through with my disabled passenger?
We would direct you round the other way.
Right,
really.
So my disabled passenger would have to pay more money because I've got to go on a diversionary route because you won't let that person through here.
That's a good argument for saying that if you make something permanent, you would allow taxis.
Well, again, that should have been discussed in the impact assessment. It's impacting on their lives that they've got to pay more to get from A to B.
Well, it's a trial, yeah?
So all the way you're trialling, they've still got to pay more money to get from A to B.
But we've stopped the trial now.
The trial is now stopped till...
Yes.
What, finished till when?
Finished.
Okay, so when does this come in force?
Well, it doesn't yet. We've got to go through all that impact assessment stuff.
Right, so this will not be here Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday of next week?
No.
Okay, thank you very much.
All right.
As you are all now aware, TfL has given Uber London Limited a 2-month licence extension. And of course, this is totally unacceptable. Uber London is either fit or not fit to continue operating. The fit and proper status should be binary and not open to a gradient interpretation. We are led to believe that the award of a further 2-month licence extension is in order to give Uber London a third chance to get their house in order, but is testimony to the reluctance of TfL to put public safety before all else. But, and this is a case in point, isn't it? Uber has had 6 years and 8 months to ensure public safety. They have not satisfied our inadequate regulator that the public is safe with them, and yet TfL has chosen to, and it beggars belief, extend their licence. When will this dereliction of their duty of care to protect the travelling public end? As soon as the decision was made, however, UTAG contacted its legal team seeking guidance on an injunction to stop Uber operating until such a time that the safety of passengers was guaranteed. A spokesperson for UTAG stated that they are seeking advice and remain ready and waiting for the decision in 2 months, and to be assured that they will take the correct action at the right time, including challenging any decision that is made. They went on to say this: that they remain totally committed to holding TfL to account in court for the damage that they have caused to our trade through inept and cowardly regulation that is seemingly biased in favour of a well-funded but totally unfit operator. Obviously, the argument expands beyond Uber, and considering TfL won't release the Deloitte report that would clarify Uber's legal or illegal status, we desperately need to bring into question TfL's corporate relationship with all the companies that it is granting an operator's licence to. Chris Johnson, who spearheaded the fight for mental well-being, stated that TfL have found Uber to be fit and proper despite failing to meet their employment obligations and despite their potential shirking of tax responsibilities. Failure to comply with employment law means Uber can keep the fare artificially low, unfairly draining trade from the taxi industry and forcing taxi drivers to work longer in order to make ends meet. TfL have a duty of care to all its licensees, and it's absurd to suggest TfL can be allowed to create a mental health problem, then try to repair it simply by putting bandages over a wound. Common sense tells us if TfL are going to allow Uber, our main competition, to operate on the wrong side of the law and still find them fit and proper, then the inevitable consequence is a mental health problem in the taxi trade, and that is something they quite frankly shouldn't be allowed to get away with.
TfL's autumn-winter edition of the En Route magazine addresses the importance of taxi drivers obtaining a good night's sleep to improve their mental health and well-being. Now, I welcome this article by TfL, and I welcome that TfL have acknowledged there is a mental health crisis within the taxi and private hire trade, and they've caused that crisis. Now, on one hand, TfL are saying that it's really important for taxi drivers to get a good night's sleep. Yet on the other hand, what they are doing, they are licensing private hire operators who are not obeying the employment and VAT laws, and therefore that keeps the minicab fare artificially low. That in turn sucks trade out of the taxi industry into the minicab industry and forces taxi drivers to work longer hours to make ends meet. Now, how can TfL say, on one hand, it's important for taxi drivers to get enough sleep to improve their mental health and well-being, yet force them with their policies to work longer hours and get less sleep? It doesn't make any sense. So I would suggest that TfL are once again virtue signalling.
The relicensing of Uber has far-reaching consequences, as evidenced by a meeting I attended with UCG's Trevor Merrills, Angela Clarkson and Cabvision's Lee DeCosta in Stevenage a couple of weeks ago. The idea, which was spearheaded by Wendy Loveday, concerned a collective objection to Uber being relicensed. Even though many of the problems nationally don't apply to London and still refer to the 1976 Miscellaneous Act, it was good to see the trade strengthening and working together as a national collective.
London Taxi Radio, the station just for cabbies.
The latest figures released by the London Electric Vehicle Company is celebrating record sales. 352 electric TX taxis were sold in September alone. LEVC is experiencing major demands for the TX model across UK and Europe, with 3,000 sold since its launch 18 months ago. However, there's a new kid on the block. The Nissan Dynamo was finally rubber stamped to operate as a taxi last month, and the first few have already made it onto the market. Here's what John Heath had to say about it to the Cab Chat radio show.
We started with a blank sheet of paper, and we started with this vehicle to build it for the driver. Yeah. It's built for the driver, not for the passenger. A driver spends 9 or 10 hours a day driving his taxi, and a passenger spends 15 minutes in the back. So really, why would you put the whole emphasis on the passenger? So the vehicle we started with, the donor vehicle, was a Nissan Evalia ENV200. The Evalia being the top of the range. So the standard equipment in a Dynamo is cruise control, it's heated steering wheel, it's DAB radio. It's got every single thing a driver would ever wish to have in his vehicle. And because we built it for the driver in mind, we moved the driver section slightly to the rear, meaning that if you're 6'5", you can comfortably sit in a Dynamo all day long without worrying about having a twisted back or bent knees or any other illnesses that I've heard that drivers have had associated with sitting in one place uncomfortably for many long hours. We redesigned the front steering to meet with London conditions of fitness turning circles, so all the steering is on the front wheels, it's not on the rear wheels at all. The common feedback from the drivers is the visibility is superb. The performance, the comfort, it's all about the driver, and that's the feedback we've been given. Not to mention the cost of typically running a TX diesel is about £25 in diesel for every 100 miles they travel. On a dynamo, on a home charger, it's between £2.50 and £3. So it's 10 times cheaper than running a diesel taxi. Now, whether you like the shape of the dynamo, whether you don't like the shape of the dynamo, what you will like is the comfort aspect and the drivability, but more importantly, these savings you'll see from day one. There's not a long-term saving, you'll see it today, tomorrow and the next day.
So, Extinction Rebellion's week of disruption is in full swing. The group is asking people in London and other cities around the world to take 2 weeks off work and join the revolt against the impending climate catastrophe. What they haven't even begun to consider is that these protests aren't for the people. In fact, they could be considered as being against the people. Extinction Rebellion says mankind is doomed if we do not cut out carbon emissions to a net zero by 2025. Think about that for a second. That's just 5.5 years away. They want us to halt the vast array of activity that produces carbon. So all that digging for coal instead of trees needs to stop. All those Chinese factories that employ millions of people and produces billions of things used by people around the globe. All those jobs in the UK, the fossil fuel industry, all that flying, all that driving, all those cheap clothes, all that Facebooking and phone use, and all that cheap transportation and restriction of movement. Don't get me started on there being a war on cars, because evidently there isn't. What there is a war on Londoners. Because if your car is being driven to make corporations or TfL money, then you are welcome to flood the streets of the capital, which is currently standing at 107,000. And that doesn't even include cross-border hiring. Now, we all do things that come easy to us in life, and taking 2 weeks off work to protest may not be difficult for some, but as evidenced by the pictures, many of those who think they are playing their part in saving the planet certainly aren't willing to give up eating McDonald's, are they? Phew. What I do know is that I'm not the only cabbie out there to have an opinion, so if you've got something to say and you want to have your voice aired, then DM me at London Taxi Radio or my personal account at Sean Paul Day. And if you can do it without using any profanities, the better. News in brief, Helen Chapman and the team at TfL Taxi and Private Hire have refused all invitations to meet with PH drivers and representatives at a seminar attended by the outgoing CEO of New York City's Taxi and Limousine Commission. The purpose of the seminar was to discuss CAP's worker rights and app data access. The High Court has agreed that merely using a function on a mobile phone which does not involve interactive telecommunication is not a mobile phone offence whilst driving. The judgment concludes that the offence is not committed unless it is proven that the phone was being used for an interactive telecommunication function at the time of the alleged offence. Now, before you think this gives the go-ahead to use your phone indiscriminately, be aware that holding a device may still be considered as driving with undue care and attention if the standard of driving falls below the standard expected of a driver on a public highway. Although this ruling might be considered a bit of a blessing, I cannot help but wonder if it is done to accommodate rideshare drivers who have to persistently interfere with their phones to carry out their job. Taxiapp are in talks with a technological development and PR company about how they can market their product to a wider audience. The company's CEO has an added interest in promoting the taxi trade as his father is a licensed black cab driver. Taxiapp, however, is concerned that we are only at the start of the mobility era. Data is going to dominate future transport and planning decisions. Legacy pollution issues will affect regulation and change the demand for modes of transport, and new players will develop and offer innovative electric-powered forms of transport in a market that competes on driver experience. Towns and cities must plan for big investments to redevelop electric energy infrastructure, and Taxiapp believes the cab trade must take advantage of the opportunities offered by the mobility revolution. Here's what Myrna Bourne from Taxiapp had to say.
I've been driving a cab for 5 years, and in that short space of time I've seen a massive changes to our industry, and this is why I've got involved with the Taxiapp. And this is what the Taxiapp is about. I think it's self-evident that as a trade we need our own technological solution. Otherwise we will be forever leasing our services to corporate greed. If we want to strengthen our trade from within, we all have to start to work as a collective. And I think we shall all agree on that.
A group of cabbies have raised £8,000 for charity after cycling 55 miles from London to Brighton. 40 members of the London Taxi Drivers Charity for Children took part in the Skyline London to Brighton cycle ride on Sunday the 15th of September, pedalling from Clapham Common to Brighton seafront. The team raised more than £8,000, which is going towards the cost of the charity's next Mad Hatter's Tea Party, which will be held in January and will give more than 600 disadvantaged children a fantastic day out. Now, talking of monumental feats, 3 brave London cabbies have reached their goal by climbing Mount Kilimanjaro in aid of the taxi charity for military veterans. The challenge, which was initiated 1 year ago by Roshan on Twitter, calling on fellow cabbies to lose weight by training to climb Mount Kilimanjaro, the tallest freestanding mountain in the world. There was initially 10 respondees, which quickly became 7, then 5, then finally 3, Brian, John and Darren. The climbers raised thousands of pounds for the much needed cause, and those funds will help war veterans by providing entertainment, outings and much needed specialised equipment. The charity isn't state funded and relies solely on voluntary donations, so if you want to contribute, the address for CabbiesDoKilimanjaro donation page will be posted at the end of this broadcast. And with that, here is a little taster of the cabbies' journey to Kilimanjaro.
It's all really good. It's down to us 5 blokes. It started off as 10 and whittled down to the 5 hardcore fellas that were really serious about this, and we're gonna do it.
And medication don't do much. Yeah, it just numbs the brain. Guess you might say I'm a little intense. I'm on the bright side of being hell-bent. So, take it from me, you're not the only one who can't see.
Just catching me up, I'll just run up the hill, trying to get my breath back. There we go, Brian, Darren and John. Halfway up the hill. Fat cabbies do kill it.
Hard to move mountains when you're paralyzed, but you gotta try. And I'm calling.
I climbed over.
No swearing, please.
And I jumped, and this lovely backpack just took me. But I am comfortable.
We got you had it on.
No, let's go.
Stop stalling. I'm calling. Get up, move on. Get up.
I'm often in the WhatsApp room, putting on sick emojis because they make me sick how much love they have for each other.
I'd like to give you a quick summary of our first 6 months of our epic challenge to climb Kilimanjaro. Well, Ross put that now infamous tweet out, and it's 6 months later. We're pledged to lose 25 stone between us, and up until yet We've lost 130 pounds. That's 12.5 stone. So we're halfway there. That's brilliant.
I think we're very tight now, and I think we're moving forward. We're working hard as a unit. Next month, the end of next month, we're going to Snowdonia for the weekend. We're climbing Snowdonia, and then we've got a few months reprieve, and then we're off to the 3 Yorkshire peaks.
And I made a video in January the 7th to be precise, saying that I was, at the time I was wearing a blue bib, which means that you're a beginner, and I was the slowest in the class out of the blue bibs. So out of about 10 blue bibs, I was probably the slowest. And my target was by July to lose 3 stone and move up to a red bib intermediate. Well, I haven't quite lost 3 stone. I've lost over 1.5 stone since then, but I have now been awarded my red bib tonight.
Yeah, I don't know why I never talk about it. I guess that's probably part of the problem. Yeah, sometimes you're wrong, sometimes you're right. I'm just gonna keep moving. Yeah, I'm just gonna keep moving.
I'm proud to be part of this and to be with 4 other amazing people. You couldn't ask to be with better people than these other 4.
My challenge? Well, as of today, when I go home, I'm going to shave, and I'm not shaving again until I come down from Kilimanjaro. So enjoy the ride with my so-called beard.
I was looking at it this way. In July, I was more than 20 stone. And up to now I'm 18 stone, so I've done over 2 stone. Another 10 months, if I can knock another 4 off, and my fitness will be a lot better, then I've got every chance of reaching the summit.
If I can give you one song that's inspired me, it's by one of my favourite bands, and the band's called Shinedown, and the song's called Get Up, G-E-T-U-P. I'm basically the lead singer, Brent Smith. One of the band members was going through a bad time with depression and anxiety, and he wrote a song for him. It's called Get Up. And if you get a chance, go on YouTube, listen to it, look at the lyrics.
Get up, get up, get up, move on. Get up, what's taking so long? Get up, move on. Stop stalling, I'm calling out. Get up, move on. Get up, ain't nothing wrong. 'Cause I believe you can be whatever. And I agree you can do much better.
The Tanzanian Tourist Board have been kind enough to make us official tourist ambassadors, and part of that privilege is they're going to be taking us on a 5-day safari with our wives after we hopefully come down from Kilimanjaro, which is, absolutely fantastic. We shall be meeting some dignitaries while out in Tanzania, which would also be fantastic for not only London taxi trade, but also for Tanzanian tourism.
Hard to move mountains when you're paralyzed, but you gotta try. So I'm calling.
Who are these guys? Well, they're my friends. They've become my friends over the last 6 months, and they'll become my friends for the rest of my life. They really are lovely, lovely guys.
We will give it 100% of climbing Kilimanjaro. The only thing that can stop us is the altitude, but that will be the only thing. We will give it 100% because of all yous watching and encouraging us. There's no way we could ever let you down. So thank you, because without your support, it'll all be in vain.
But in all seriousness, we're climbing for a charity. We're climbing for the taxi charity for war veterans and disabled. It's a very poignant year. It's the 75th anniversary of D-Day, 75th anniversary of Arnhem. If you haven't, please give to the charity. All proceeds go to a great cause.
An absolute phenomenal achievement by Darren, Brian and John, and one that should serve as an inspiration to us all. Well, that's it for this week from LTR, but remember, if you have a news item, a promotion or an event that you think we would be interested in covering, then as I previously mentioned, you can get in touch with us by DMing us on Twitter at London Taxi Radio or at Sean Paul Day. You can follow us on our Facebook page, London Taxi Radio, and why wouldn't you want to do that? You can like and subscribe on YouTube, or you can email us, sean@londontaxiradio.co.uk. Until next time, I'll see you out there on the mean streets.
Look, we know technology works, it's brilliant, it's brought us so much, but when technology fails, you just look for the light.
The light, from you see it, you know you are safe.
Once that we're driving along and someone sees that orange light, they know they're in safe hands, they're going to get home safely.
It's a legal requirement for every single taxi in this city to take credit and debit cards. It's that easy. So when you're looking for that light, you know you have the reassurance of knowing that you can pay by any means.
When people look for the light, they look for safety, honesty and trust.
We are London and we represent London. We are the ambassadors of London.
It's so funny. Guys, I've got to go. I'm sorry. Yeah, no, I've really got to go. I'm really sorry. Sure? Yeah, are you okay?
We've had apps in this city since 2011, and apps do work. They're bringing innovation and technology to the forefront. But there's no better and quicker way of getting a taxi in this town than putting your hand in the air. Whether it's spontaneously or whether you're just waiting with friends and you see one in the distance, you just have to look for that light.